Hello, my name is Tomas Antonio. I am a director, writer, producer, editor here at Flock Local Productions. And today I wanted to do something different. I wanted to break down my last video, which was a music video, Who I Am, What I Be. And let's just jump right into it. Alright, so to start off, the whole idea behind this video was to give myself a chance to do a more modern kind of music video, which heavy emphasis on the FX and edits. I've done music videos previous, but they're more like storytelling or follow along kind of videos, but I really wanted to give myself a new challenge and opportunity to try something different. So to start off, the first challenge was a writing challenge by having to write the song myself. And normally, I don't do this kind of writing, but it was a good challenge. I didn't want it to make super heavy emphasis on the lyrics and whatnot, though. This was going to be secondary to the video, like I said. I just came up with the idea of talking about myself, who I am, who I be, and just kind of put it out there in a fun, rhythmic way. So that's where that came from. So after writing the song, I just started to look through as many music videos as I could, try and take as much inspiration for sets, colors, locations, props, whatever. What was visually interesting. I looked at the edits, I looked at the effects, what worked, what didn't, what I felt would fit this song, what would fit my style. And the one that ended up having the biggest influence for me was Losing Control by Russ. And it stood out because the edits aren't there's not a whole lot of effects in it. It's very smooth. It goes with the beat of the song, but also because the location was just a parking garage, which is a location anybody can get to. There's already lights there, which comes in very handy when you're, $0 budget. As much as I can get there naturally without having to bring something, that helps a lot. So that was the big one for me. So after recording, I started to scout locations. I went to the nearest public parking garage, and I just started putting as many shots together as I could. Started just seeing what framed up well, what framed up wrong, what time of day would work best. And in the end, I started thinking sunset was when I really wanted to do this, because it would help with A, just the lighting in general, and B, I wanted to give it the warm contrasted look, because a lot of times, especially in this parking garage, it had cooler lights in there. So having that contrasted color helps set up, gives a visual edge to begin with. So to start off with the shots, I knew I wanted a main shot that was around car, something typical you might see, but I just wanted to give it my own flair. So I started giving it, framing it up low, framing it up high, framing it in the middle, whatnot. From there, I started looking around, just seeing what else I could get. I actually found an elevator there, and I took a few shots there. I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to do that in the end result, but you always want more than less, because sometimes things work out, sometimes things don't. So it's always better to have more than less. The thing I find that helps a lot is just to give yourself a lot of creative freedom, a lot of room to play around when you get there on set. So having this planned out ahead of time, or having some sort of idea, helps later when I get there. So then I don't have to focus so much on the details. I can just kind of move with what works, with what doesn't, First day of shooting ended up being just the intro, actually, and then the intro was totally unplanned. I knew I wanted to have something there, I just wasn't sure. And we happened to be driving by this particular parking garage. It's not even the one that I scouted out, but it looked really cool. And then the sun was in perfect spots, so it all framed up very well. The parking lot was empty, so we were able to leave the camera, get a nice wide shot. And we just kind of, like I said earlier, I had a lot of that creative freedom to just play around, see what worked. Day 2 was the day of actually shooting in the garage. Now this is the one that I had scouted out, and ironically enough, we ended up going there, shooting all our shots, and we got them all done, and they looked pretty well as we did them. There was a few mistakes here and there, and I knew we'd probably need one more day to go back and redo reshoots, but what ended up happening was, as I was going through and doing the preliminary coloring and whatnot, the footage ended up being too dark. That was because while we were shooting there, it was a college parking garage, And so we had a lot of people, you know, being nosy, or people just trying to get in and out. And you know, that's what happens when you're shooting in a public place. But because of that, the sunlight ended up going down, and we ended up shooting more towards night than we meant to. So the shots turned out all right, but they were a lot darker than I wanted to. So I knew I wanted for sure that third day then. The good thing about this was it let me see, you know, what in these shots I liked, what I had planned, what I didn't plan, and allowed me to get an even better plan for the next day. So day 3, we ended up going to a whole totally different parking garage, once again, unscouted. But I was okay with that because most parking garages, they're not gonna differ too much, you know, just a little different in structure, maybe a difference in lighting. But the one we ended up going to, and I had been there previously for a different shoot, but it turned out perfectly. The first shot, we started at the top, and I previously wanted to get one on the top of the other one, but the background just wasn't flattering. But when we showed up there that day, the sun was in the perfect place, and the way it lined up with the city, it just all fell together. And to make sure I had a little extra light, I actually had my car parked right in front of us and then turned on the headlights, so it was bouncing right at us, as well as having a bounce board reflecting some light at us, because I really wanted to make sure this time no too much shadows, not too dark, you know. We then went to the next level, and that's where we got the main shot with the car in that, and that one turned out a whole lot better as well. I once again put up a bounce board to reflect light back at us, and it worked perfectly because it lined up with the sunset, which was coming right through that little space. And on the right, we had the blue light, which gave that perfect contrast I was talking about earlier, and it just lined up very well. The third shot we ended up doing was the follow along shot on the dolly, and this time I made sure the dolly was a little more stable. Honestly, it wasn't even a real dolly, it was just a little cart that you put boxes on, you know, and we put the tripod on there and then strapped it down with just some bungee cords and just held it steady as we pulled it along. I hope that we weren't going very fast and whatnot, but for once again, $0, it works. And then finally, the final shot we did was we went to the very bottom level, and at that point it'd been pretty dark outside, but it didn't matter because it helped a lot. And in that shot you can see it really shows a lot of that hard lighting, provided a lot of shadows, gave it a little moodier look, but also a different look from those other shots to help contrast. So then finally, we had all our shots together, and I was able to take this into editing and finally get to do what the whole main purpose was, to edit it and play with the effects and whatnot. And going in, I knew I wanted to do a lot of effects and whatnot, but I didn't want it to be too much, not enough to hurt your head, you know. Sometimes people get too fancy, too much, too whatever, and you just can't focus and it takes away from the video. So here I plan to do a lot of smooth, quick transitions, a lot of little things, maybe like flashes and whatnot. And I think overall it helped keep the video simple, give it its own style, but still give it a visual edge. Another thing I did was I also wanted, with this beat, with this song, it's a very high energy song, so I wanted a lot of movement, but not having a cameraman there on set with us, I wasn't able to get it there. So what I did was I was able to manipulate it in post and actually add it to make it look like as if somebody was moving the camera back and forth or up and down. And I try to give each shot its own kind of movement. The tripod dolly shot already had its own movement, so I left that one. The only one that didn't have movement was the one on the top, but that was okay because once again it differentiated it, and there was also the wind blowing there, so it gave a little different kind of movement that you seen differently, you know. So in the end, this is how I shot and made my $0 budget music video. I learned a whole lot from it. I put a lot of effort into the editing that I've never had to do before, but I think it turned out well, you know. There's always things you can do better and many things I know now going forward, but I think it turned out very well. I appreciate you guys watching my videos. Appreciate you guys subscribing. Tell me down in the comments if you like this kind of video, if you'd like to see more of it in the future. I'm thinking about doing this with my previous videos and breaking them down, but I appreciate all the support, and I'll see you next time.